Hello and welcome to another episode of Kapow. I'm Al, and as you may have noticed, this is not Sonya.
No, I'm not.
No, this is... Wait, what's your name?
Tahlia.
Tahlia, and she was kind enough to step in as a guest presenter while Sonya's on sabbatical.
Actually, I was walking past Kings Comics and you dragged me in and forced me to read some books.
Are we gonna have a problem?
No, I wasn't doing anything tonight anyway.
Excellent, so why don't you go ahead and tell people what we're reviewing today?
Firstly, we're going to be looking at Volume 1 of Black Widow, A Finely Woven Thread from Marvel Now. Then there's Volume 1 of Badass, Dead End from Dynamite, and finally Volume 1 of The Mercenary Sea from Image.
And of course, you're also going to be reviewing Noragami, along with our resident anime expert, Ray.
What? You didn't tell me about the last one. I haven't seen it yet.
Really? Okay, you know what? We've got a TV set up out back. Just go back and watch it.
What? Right now?
Yeah, go, quick. I'll just play for time. So... What? Oh, we can just cut around this bit. Okay, great. No, I was just gonna, like, do some knock-knock jokes or something.
As one of the few Avengers who doesn't have any superpowers or even a robotic flying battle suit, Natalia Romanova, aka Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow, is often up against some bad guys who should be able to squash her like a spider.
Yeah, and yet she survives, because besides her considerable combat skills, Natasha is also a former Russian super spy, with a bag of tricks that would make even James Bond himself shuffle his feet with embarrassment and mumble something about a defibrillator he keeps in his glove box.
And although it is really cool to see her running around with the Avengers, it's the super spy side of her character that I've always wanted to see more of.
Thankfully, Nathan Edmondson and Phil Noto are all about the espionage action in their interpretation of Black Widow under the Marvel Now imprint.
The first thing that you notice in Volume 1 of Finely Woven Thread is the beautiful and very emotive artwork by Phil Noto. The colour palette invokes all the best Cold War spy era classics, while Noto's choices of angle, lighting and composition manage to make this feel like an intimate story, even during the most explosive shootouts.
And this is an intimate story, that's very clear. Edmondson has made a choice to focus on Natasha's time away from the Avengers, driven by the demons of her past to make amends for her actions, although he keeps us firmly rooted in the present, rather than revealing the details of that past.
There's even a fake out early on where she tells her origin story and then reveals she made it all up by saying, "No one will ever know my full story."
Yeah, and I think that's a statement Edmondson's making. Natasha is tortured by her past, but it's a pain she keeps to herself, withholding it even from the reader. And that makes every insight that you get into this incredibly guarded woman fascinating. And I think it's a great direction for the character.
Yeah, the character development is strong throughout. And it's also worth stating that a large percentage of the lead characters in this volume are women, and that none of them have been overly sexualized. That may surprise some readers, given some of Black Widow's previous incarnations as a sultry femme fatale, but I think it's refreshing.
Yeah, she's still very beautiful, but it's wits and determination that make her dangerous, just like any great spy thriller. This looks like it'll continue to be a great collaboration. You know, it's got this plot that keeps you turning the pages even when you really want to linger over the artwork. It's a buy from me.
This is a great new chapter for Natasha. I love that this is more relatable than anything I've seen her in before. A relatable woman with a real life and a real history. And for new readers, it's so far removed from Scarlett Johansson's sexy fighter superhero take, it's definitely a buy from me.
The blurb for Badass Volume 1 starts by saying, "If Kick-Ass and Deadpool had a baby, it would be badass." Now those sort of comparisons tend to worry me a bit because they rarely promise much more than an attempt to cash in on the popularity of established titles.
But at least every new comic is partially inspired by others. So let's see what new stuff Badass brings to the table. The storyline jumps back and forward in time, showing the unhappy life of a high school boy named Jack Parks alongside the chaotic escapades of the supercriminal Jack will later become, known as Dead End.
You have to imagine that the high school sections are there to build some empathy for Jack, showing the relentless bullying, horrible luck, and general lack of aptitude at everything that he endures. Unfortunately, that empathy is hindered by the fact that Jack is clearly pretty unpleasant, even as a child.
When getting hit by a car somehow gifts Jack with superhuman good luck, along with the ability to be perfect at everything he tries to do, as well as being suddenly handsome, he decides that the best thing to do with his new abilities is to seek revenge on the entire world.
And there really isn't a lot more to it than that. Dead End's hedonistic rampage takes him from killing high school kids to killing superheroes and supervillains alike, with the character analogues being anything but subtle.
They're intentionally blatant, I think. He starts off by facing a Batman clone called Black Snake and his criminal girlfriend Amadeus Kitty, who is basically Catwoman, but with a confusingly overlaid Mozart obsession.
Far from Kick-Ass meets Deadpool, I think a more accurate comparison would be Mark Millar's Wanted and Garth Ennis's The Boys, with their hyper-violence and deconstruction of American superheroes.
True, but Badass doesn't bring anything new to the table, seemingly retreading the same ground, but without the shock value or humour that its predecessors made effective.
Yeah, but where Herrick Harner's writing left me cold, I was actually kind of impressed by Bruno Bussardi's artwork. There's an energy and abandon to his style, especially in the action scenes, that I enjoyed separately from the story.
The visuals are at best in those action scenes, of which there are plenty, and I have to agree that when things are getting really chaotic, Bussardi still manages to keep a sense of cause and effect that leads your eye through the mayhem.
In the end, though, the artwork doesn't make up for a story that falls short of being either clever or funny, and thanks to scenes like its comic take on a high school massacre, was sometimes kind of offensive, so I'm gonna give this one a berry.
Well, I do agree that there's not much new in terms of story. I still think that there's a fan base who will appreciate it. I mean, sometimes you just want to see a superhero get his ass handed to him, and Dead End looks pretty cool doing it, so I'm giving it a borrow. Hey, Ray.
Hey, Sonya. Yeah?
No, Tahlia.
You changed your name?
Nope, I'm a completely different person.
It's a good impersonation, I'll give you that, but I'm not falling for it.
Can we move on?
Yeah. Hey guys, we're taking a look at Noragami this week. If you haven't yet seen or heard of this anime, it's causing a bit of a stir at the moment. It's based on the hit manga and it consists of 12 episodes, and fans are already screaming for a second season. So, what's it all about? Noragami translates to Stray God. The story follows the individual and collective pursuits of a trio that exist across two worlds, the living and the spirit world. Yato is a minor deity who's attempting to gain recognition by granting wishes for 5 yen so that he can rise amongst the godly ranks. Hiyuri is a human and was almost killed in a traffic accident. She becomes a Hanyo, granting her the ability to exist in both worlds. And Yukine is a human who has died before being summoned to serve as Yato's shinki, or weapon, without which Yato cannot properly banish the evil phantoms. Together, they battle the phantoms and attempt to seek a sense of identity.
I like the characters though, they've all got depth of personality.
Yeah, certainly, with the main trio anyway. I thought some of the supporting characters though felt a little two-dimensional. They kind of enter an episode and there's nothing grounding them to the world that's sort of being developed. And then they hang around, they don't necessarily have a clear objective, they're just there.
The series felt a little rushed though. I haven't read the manga, but the story development felt missing, and it wasn't from the lack of exposition.
No, actually on that front it felt, you know, overdone. It was quite repetitive. Moments like Yato being reduced to cleaning a bathroom because he's so desperate for saintly recognition is really funny, but the transition in and out of dramatic tension and psychological terror and this kind of humour is jarring.
A shame, because I wanted to invest more.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the design of the characters though, especially Hiyuri and Yukine. Hiyuri's tale that serves as a link to her human form is a nice touch, but could have been utilised as something more interesting.
Some of the phantom designs were dull though. One of them was a butterfly, another one was a blue frog with 6 legs.
The background art was striking, but sometimes I got a little lost geographically.
I thought so too, especially when they're travelling. I didn't get a sense of time either. With exception to Hiyuri's home, the convenience store and the school, the environments didn't clarify the world or allow the characters to truly exist in them. Well, Full Metal Alchemist, which is also produced by Bones Incorporated, is over 10 years old now, and although that art isn't as well rendered, it still fares better on all fronts. What did you think about the voice characterization?
Oh, really good. I didn't think anyone sounded out of place.
No, I think it's because there's such an experienced cast on board, and it shows that the deities, the phantoms, the peripheral characters, all of them are extremely well delivered. I didn't think the soundtrack felt a little hit and miss. Some of it was really powerful and enjoyable, but sometimes that energy felt misplaced. I think overall it wasn't well orchestrated.
The opening theme was pretty cool though.
Yeah, the opening theme was very cool. What did you think about the series overall? Give us your verdict.
Given the hype surrounding Noragami, I was expecting something really special, but it just didn't stand out from the crowd.
No.
It reminds me too much of another series, also by Bones, called Soul Eater, which I prefer. You touched on it earlier, but Noragami is missing something. It's a berry from me.
A good script, perhaps? Look, it's a little harsh, but I'm calling for a rewrite. The characters are interesting and they're worth investigating, but the story itself is choppier than an octopus chef trying to serve himself at a teppanyaki restaurant. There's such an overuse of flashbacks, and unless you're senile, then why are we showing the same flashback over and over again? Am I too old for this story? No, I just don't think there's any incentive for me to buy and rewatch it because there's nothing else to discover. I haven't done this before, but I'm dousing it in petrol, I'm striking the match, I'm flicking Yato 5 yen, and wishing for part of my life back. It's a burn. And you're very convincing, I gotta say.
Let me set the scene. The year is 1938. A war rages across the Pacific, and a roguish adventurer sets out in search of a mythical treasure.
Indiana Jones!
Actually, no. But I like where your head's at, because we all love an adventurer with a heart of gold, whether their name is Han Solo, Malcolm Reynolds, or Henry Jones Jr.
He prefers Indiana.
Yeah, but how do you argue with Sean Connery?
I'm guessing what you're trying to say is there's a new name that's been added to the list?
Exactly right. The Mercenary Sea, written by Kel Simons with art by Matthew Reynolds, no relation to Malcolm as far as I know, introduces us to a new adventurer who is prepared to buckle any swash he comes across. Captain Jack Harper of the U-boat Venture.
There really is everything in this story that a pulp hero needs, isn't there? There's a treasure hunt, an archenemy, a ragtag group of misfits, each with their own murky past. Just add water and wait for hijinks to ensue.
And of course, water is important when you captain a submarine, and this is why I made the comparison at the start, because even though Mal and Han are both spaceship captains, I think the similarity stands up because the ocean is the new space.
Is it?
Yeah, I read about it in Cosmo.
Weird. Getting back to the story though. In the first volume of Mercenary Sea, Jack and his crew are eking out a living doing odd jobs for shady characters when they get roped into rescuing a stranded British spy codenamed Top Hat. From there it becomes a bullet-riddled, explosion-heavy scramble for survival, laced with mystery and intrigue. It's a pretty breathless ride.
There certainly is action aplenty, but there are also quiet, introspective moments which I think owe a lot to Matthew Reynolds' artwork.
The art has a very stylistic approach, heavy on silhouettes, with a bold colour palette. It sits perfectly with the pulp era. Even the character models are reminiscent of early stars of the silver screen like Cary Grant or George Papard.
If there's a problem with this first volume, it's that there are so many fascinating characters and not quite enough time to explore all of their personalities. But that only made me more eager for the next volume, as did the still dangling promise of the lost treasure of Kojira.
Yeah, there is a feeling of setup to this volume, but I think there's more than enough action and adventure to make it a good solid read, and a great appetite whetter for things to come. I'm going to give this one a buy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is definitely a buy from me as well. I adore this whole era of storytelling with its echoes of movies like King Kong, and yes, even Indiana Jones. You see how I brought that right around full circle there?
I'm not convinced that was planned.
You know what, I miss Sonya. She would have taken me at my word on that.
No, she wouldn't.
No, you're right, she totally wouldn't.
And with that, Kapowians, we come to the end of another episode.
You know what, you're actually getting very good at this.
Thank you. I wouldn't mind coming back sometime.
Well, you never know. I'm not actually sure when Sonya's coming back.
Why wasn't she available today?
I'm not actually sure. She called me, but there was a lot of shouting and some animal noises in the background. I couldn't really make it out. Anyway, our next episode is going to be a Christmas special since it's very nearly the season to be jolly, so make sure you tune in for that.
Are you sure she's going to be okay?
Sonya. No, she'll be fine. This isn't actually the first time this has happened.
Man, you guys are weird.
She's actually got a point. Well, until next time. Bye.